here is the most easiest method on draping technique.
So in this video, I'm going to be showing you step by step how you can achieve a side draping using the slash and spread method. So if this is exactly what you want to learn, make sure you watch this video till the very end. So firstly, I have gone ahead to draft out my basic body skirt pattern. I'm sure you guys know how to draft this skirt pattern out. This is the down part of the dress. So my pattern paper was not long enough, so I'll be adding the extras when I'm cutting on the main fabric. Now the next thing I want to do, I'm subtracting the half length away from these skirts. This is a gown, is not a skirt, so you want to take off your half length measurements. And the next thing I'm marking there is the hip line from the shoulder to the hip line, which I have already carved out. And the next line is the knee line, like where your flow is going to be starting from. That is, if your skirts if the down part of your dress is going to be having a fish pattern, if it's going to be straight, there will be no need for that. By the time you open this up, this is what you're going to have. Now this is your full skirt pattern, and this is the fabric I'll be using. I don't know if I should call this a satin or I should call it a very soft duchess material. So make sure you use a fabric that is light and is going to flow with the drapes. The next thing is to come to one side of your pattern and come down by a measurement of 1 inch. I'm going to be using 1 inch, and then after taking 1 inch, you're going to be giving a gap of 1 inch each. Like after taking 1 inch, you come down and mark another 1 inch, mark another 1 inch. So you're going to be giving a gap of 1 inch. Mark about 6 to 9 inches length, depending on how long you want your drapes to be. Now over to the other side, you're going to come down by about 4 inches. I'm marking 4 inches down, and from that 4 inches mark, I'm going to be taking measurements of 1 inch again. All right, so you're going to be marking 1 inch until the lines you have on the right hand side corresponds with the lines you have on the left hand side. So I'm having about 5 or 6 lines on this side, and I'm also having the same number of lines on the other side. Now the next thing, I am going to be rolling a straight line. Okay, this is not a straight line. I'm going to be connecting the lines together. Use your straight ruler and connect the lines from this other side and meet with the other end. After connecting my lines together, this is what I have. You can make yours longer than this, you can make yours shorter than this. Now the next thing, I'm going to get a fresh pattern paper, and then I'll place the first one that I used on top of the new pattern paper. Just place it firmly like so, and I'm going to be using a masking tape to hold it firmly together in such a way that you don't want the one underneath to move or to shift, so you want it to be very firm. Now that our pattern paper is doubled, the next thing you want to do is to go ahead and start to slash. Now this is what we call slashing. You're going to be slashing your first pattern paper, slash it almost to the ending. Make sure you don't cut it out. After slashing, then you spread. You can see what I did. I opened mine to about 4 inches wide. That was how I spread mine. I used 4 inches to spread my pattern paper. If you want your drapes to be very bold, you can spread more than 4 inches, and if you want it to be tiny, you can spread less than 4 inches. So after the first slash, you go over to the next line and slash. When you slash, you spread using the same measurements you used for the first one. So I used 4 inches, and I'm going to be using 4 inches until I get to the very last line. So guys, this is quite simple and easy. When you slash on each line, you spread, and then you use your masking tape, or you can use a pin and hold it down to the second pattern paper. So this is the reason why you have a second pattern paper underneath the first one. So I'll keep doing all this. I'll keep repeating the same procedure, and make sure you are slashing with the same measurements you started with. If you started with 3 inches, you keep slashing by 3 inches. Now the next thing for us to do is you start draping. You start draping on your pattern paper. Now the reason why it's not going to be a permanent drape on this pattern paper is just for you to get your pleats and measurements intact, so that the lines is going to be visible for you when you're doing it on the main fabric. Now watch the way I am draping carefully and continue with this technique until you get to the last line. When you grab one of the lines, you squeeze it and place it slightly on top of the upper one, and then use a pin to hold it down in place. At this point, I have gone ahead to remove my pins, and then I opened it up, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to use a marker to get the edges. All right, I'm just going to mark the edges. Just watch how I'm going to do this. First, I'll go with dotted lines, and then I'm going to be connecting the lines together so that I can know exactly where I am going to be cutting on. You guys, if you watch my curves closely, you would notice it's not completely very round, like it's not completely straight. You might end up doing your slash and spread method, and your curves are going some are going to be coming up and some will be coming down. It will look like a zigzag pattern. Not to worry, you are still on the right side. It doesn't really matter whether it is completely round or not. So now the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and place this on my main fabric. We are done with the pattern drafting, so I'm going to place this on my fabric. Like you can see, I decided to use the ground because the table was not too big enough to accommodate this. So now I'm going ahead to cut what I have. I'm not cutting exactly what I have at the down part. If you watch very closely, I'm leaving allowances at the down. Remember, I told you this pattern paper was not long enough, so I'm leaving allowances at the down, and I'm also going to be adding something to the end of this dress to make it even more longer. You can see the pleated designs I have at the down part of this dress. As you can see, I have pleated designs at the down, so that is why I added just about 2 inches. Now go ahead and notch both your hip line, notch your knee line, notch at every point that you need to make any adjustments. Make sure you go ahead and notch it before you remove your pattern paper, and also go ahead and notch those lines, your draping lines. All right, make sure you notch all the draping lines before you remove your pattern paper, because by the time you remove your pattern paper, you are not going to see those lines anymore. So now that I have done that, I'm going ahead now to make my drapes. All right, I'm going ahead to make my drapes, and because I was able to notch those lines from the pattern paper, I was able to notch those lines on the main fabric. It's easier for me now to know where my draping line falls. Like, it's very, very easy now for me to see it. At this point, carefully drape from one end, and then you drape to the other end. Use your pin to hold it down together, just like what I am doing right now. So just go ahead and keep doing this using the notches and the lines that you duplicated from your pattern paper. So I'll continue to do this until I get to the last drape. So this is how we do our draping. If you want the draping on this other end, fine. If you want it on the other side, wherever you want it to fall, you go ahead and do it. Now the next thing, because I wasn't able to get my knee, you can see this skirt is not having a knee. Like the A-line is not really obvious. It's meant to be an A-line skirt, but it's not obvious at the knee part. So at this point, I'll go ahead and fold my fabric into two, and then retake my measurements. This time around, the hips, the knee, the A-line, everything is going to be visible. So you go ahead and do the same thing on your own so that everything will be visible. When you're done recutting, all you need to do is to take it to your machine and stitch down your drapes, and then you add every other designs you want to add. You can see I added a front slit to my gown, and then you attach it to the upper part of your already cut out bustier top, and at the back you can see I added an extra flow to the back, and then I also did a corset rope. So guys, this is very simple. I know you're going to be trying this. If this video was so helpful, give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in my next video. Bye.